How often do you think about the soil that lies beneath your feet? The Netflix documentary Kiss the Ground states that due to its vast scale and its ability to sequester immense quantities of greenhouse gases, it could just be the one thing that could balance our climate, replenish our fresh water supplies, and feed the world. However, experts are predicting that we only have about 60 harvests left before the health of our soil has been permanently destroyed. It is no secret that our current large-scale agricultural system limits biodiversity and causes an imbalance of nutrients and natural materials. National Geographic actually published an entire article on this issue. It states that worldwide, agriculture accounts for 70% of human freshwater consumption. Chemical fertilizers have increased reactive nitrogen levels by approximately 600%, and the millions of hectares of land that grow strictly corn, wheat, and rice account for nearly half of all cultivated land on the planet. There has been a push to change the way we farm and save our soil. There's been talk of a method called regenerative agriculture. It incorporates techniques that work with the planet's natural processes, rather than against them, in order to achieve succession while also promoting biodiversity. After surveying members of my community on this topic, I found that about 61% had heard of the term before, while only 29% understood its meaning. I researched this topic thoroughly throughout my senior seminar class, but was able to see it in action through my volunteer work at a nonprofit organization called Sweet Beet Farm in Bradford, New Hampshire. This is a small vegetable farm that practices regenerative techniques such as crop rotation and companion planting. This means that they don't plant the same crops in the same place every year in order to prevent depleting the soil in that area of one nutrient. It also means that they plant certain vegetables or herbs like basil and dill together because they know they'll complement each other in terms of growth and pest control. Clearly, these practices work with the planet's natural processes rather than against them. My name is Sabrina, and for my senior project, I wanted to reduce my environmental footprint by limiting my dependency on a large-scale agricultural system. To do so, I decided to build my own sustainable garden at home. I constructed a raised garden bed and 2 hydroponic growing systems. Hydroponics do not require the use of soil, but instead involve a growing medium and a nutrient-water mixture. I used rock wool as my growing medium and purchased a nutrient solution off of Amazon. I created a hydroponic tower, which involved the use of a pump and a sprinkler head that circulated water throughout the plants on the sides of the Home Depot buckets. I also created a gutter system, which involved 2 gutter downspouts. I capped off the ends, cut holes in the tops, and filled each of those with a nutrient solution. This system ended up being a lot more effective in comparison to the tower. But mostly, I would prefer it because it was easier to maintain and took fewer resources to build. In each of my systems, including the raised garden bed, I grew cucumbers, carrots, radishes, and green beans. Given the limited amount of time that I had after the building process, I was aware that I might not be able to harvest any vegetables at all. However, I ended up being able to produce at least radishes and green beans from all 3. Overall, my goal in this project was to limit my environmental footprint by using different methods. Today, I will talk about 3 of these methods: the use of recycled materials, composted fertilizer, and reclaimed water in my sustainable garden. One way in which I achieved this was through the use of recycled materials during the building process. I built my raised garden bed and the trellises for my hydroponic systems using wood collected from Granite State Solar Company. This means that I prevented materials that would have entered the landfill and repurposed them for something that actually benefits the environment. In turn, I also prevented greenhouse gases from entering the atmosphere that would have been produced for the transport of these materials to the landfill. But this was just one of the many eco-friendly aspects of my garden. Throughout this process, I also fertilized my soil using compost. Chemical inputs harm the natural processes within the ecosystem. They throw off the balance between different nutrients, disrupting biogeochemical cycles. They also take resources and fuel to both produce and transport. Composted fertilizer is sustainable in many ways. Feeding America actually states that 40% of food in the United States gets thrown in the trash. This food then breaks down in large methane-producing landfills. So, not only does compost serve as a natural source of nutrients for plants, but it also keeps food waste out of landfills. But this was not all that my garden had to offer the planet. I also used reclaimed water to sustain my plants in all three systems. I collected this water from an existing rain catcher in my backyard that had originally been purchased off of Home Depot. However, I also ended up building a rain catcher off of the gutters on the sides of my house. In turn, the rain catcher that had originally existed in my backyard ended up being safer and more reliable. Rainwater is very beneficial to plants because it still holds a lot of nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus that aren't present in the filtered drinking water from my faucet. But more importantly, it is a free resource. It doesn't require the burning of fossil fuels to gather, and it reduces the stress on our limited fresh water supply through the use of a simple rain catcher. It is clear to see that the agricultural system has taken a significant toll on the health of our planet. Regenerative practices like those used at Sweet Peat Farm are very promising. However, understanding how to provide for ourselves by growing our own food actually has a really big impact. Through my senior project, I was able to successfully begin growing my own food right in my backyard. My garden bed and hydroponic systems limited my environmental impact through the use of recycled materials, composted fertilizer, and reclaimed water. Using these methods helped me to understand how I can further limit my impact in this process. Small actions like these are steps in the right direction. It may not seem like a lot, but as sustainability expert Shelby Orm states, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Are there any questions?
Okay.